Hello, ladies. It is Coach Steph. I'm super excited as y'all come on in. Let me know who is watching and if you're watching the replay, hashtag replay. So it's been a couple of weeks since I have done a live. So I'm super excited to do this interview. So if y'all have been watching me for a little bit, y'all know that I sometimes go live and teach about nutrition, fitness, mindset, right? Hello. Thank you for saying hi. How are y'all? And so the mindset part is the biggest step for most of us trying to make some real health changes. And so the nutrition, the fitness, like there's meal plans online and there's, workouts online. You can download apps and things, but really working on your mindset is going to give you the permanent transformation that you are looking for. And so today I'm going to be talking to a guest expert all about confidence and why your confidence in your health journey matters. So, Andrea, how are you? As y'all are hopping on, say hello. In a few minutes, as soon as a couple more people hop on, I am going to be bringing on our guest expert. I'm going to go in the group really quickly too and just say we are live. So I want to know what questions you guys have about confidence and how do you think confidence plays a role in your results, in your journey, and do you feel like you have confidence in yourself? Okay, so as a coach, I've seen many women who kind of struggle with trusting themselves. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. I'm just putting we are live in the group post. All right. So I'm going to bring on our guest expert so that she can introduce herself. And then if y'all have questions, we would love to answer some. I know that I had some in the group not too long ago. I think I have them pulled up. And so I want to know what questions that you have. And so put them in the chat if you have any questions. So let me bring on Dalencia. Hello and welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
So go ahead and introduce yourself for the people watching.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Dalencia, and I am a confidence and mindset coach. Specifically, I help women learn how to fall in love with themselves and create the lives that they dreamed of. And those two things are super tied together. And I'm sure we're going to get all into that in this interview, in this panel.
Yay. So I'm so excited just to get someone else's viewpoint on this topic. So can you tell us kind of how you help the women that you coach?
Yeah, so most of the women that come to me are in a place in their life where they just feel a little stuck. There's some goals that they have, be it fitness, be it businesses, all those different types of things. And at the core of most of the goals that you have, it's all going to fall back into, like Steph was saying earlier, being able to trust yourself so you can stick it out for the long haul. And so I work with them to build up the mindset practices so that they can start to trust themselves more, have more confidence, and actually see progress when it comes to creating the life that they want for themselves.
Okay, cool. So tell me, what would that look like?
Yeah, so since this community is specifically about health and fitness and all of that, one of my women that I work with, she came to me and she was talking about how she wanted to lose weight and just be healthier and all of those different types of things. And she noticed for herself that she would start it. She's so excited. I'm sure we can all relate to this. So excited. You have all the things, you have the meal plans listed out and you have your workout routines listed out and you think, okay, I can do this. I'm going to do this one time. And then you get to month 1, month 2, month 3. And then by month 3, you don't see the results or the changes that you wanted. And so then you start to feel down about yourself and you're like, oh, this is never going to work. Why am I trying this? You start beating yourself up on the inside. And so where I come in is helping them build up that mental capacity to be able to keep going through that so that they can actually achieve their goals, because she had everything she needed on paper, that it was a mental battle that was keeping her from seeing what it is that she wanted when it came to her health and fitness goals.
Yeah, so I know that I talk a lot about like women being stuck and feeling like they're kind of like losing the same 15 pounds over and over again, and they get really like motivated, and then they do all the things, and then it's like burnout because they try to like change too many things at one time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So can you talk a little bit about like the process of like starting a journey of increasing your confidence?
Yeah.
How did it
So
started?
yeah, so whenever you're getting started, the main thing that I tell anyone that I work with, it's the pillar of confidence, the foundation of confidence is self-awareness. Understanding what you believe about yourself, what thoughts are you having on a daily basis. I encourage my ladies to do what I call a thought capture, where you just write down, you have these check-in points throughout your day and say, okay, what was going on in my mind when I was going through these specific situations? What's going on in my mind on a daily basis? Do I notice that every day around lunch, I start saying, you know what, like, here you go again, grabbing whatever that you said you weren't going to grab yesterday, and you're doing that over and over again. If you can check in and realize what thoughts you're having instead of just being like a bystander and going through your days passively, it'll help you start to be able to get to a point where you can actually change your thoughts, build your confidence, build your self-trust. If you don't understand what's happening in your mind, then it becomes next to impossible to build your confidence up.
Yeah, it's so crazy. We did an interview, I think last week, about might have been emotional eating, can't remember. But we talked about how like if you like the first step of any kind of change is like knowing like where you are right now, right? And so if you were wanting to get out of debt, ladies, and you were just taking your debit card and you were just swiping, in a week, you might say, I don't really spend that much money, right? But if you swipe your debit card and every time you see that amount go down, down, or if you're using cash, right? Like the self-awareness in the moment, right? Because you can be self-aware. I find that a lot of people are like self-aware, like retrospectively and say, hey, yeah, I know I do this, but they don't know how to in the moment disconnect from that thought and make a different choice. And so the self-awareness is huge, like knowing where you are and, like you said, what your thoughts are, because we know that thoughts equal results, right? And so I'm going to go to one question that we had from Denise Walker. She asked, is confidence and procrastination linked? Are confidence and procrastination linked? What do you think?
Yeah, I think they are. There are numerous situations in why a person might be procrastinating. But when it comes to confidence specifically, I think of whenever someone has set a goal for themselves and then they're at that moment where they're sitting on the couch and they're like, all right, this is the week. This is the week that I'm gonna go back to the gym or whatever it is they're planning on doing, and they start playing their timeline in their head. They start playing that future timeline in their head, and subconsciously they start to think about the fact that like, yeah, today I'm gonna go and tomorrow I'm gonna go, but by Friday I'm gonna fall off again, and by next week I'm only gonna have gone once, and then 2 months from now I'm going to be in this exact same situation trying to hype myself up to go to the gym again. And so when your brain has thought about that whole timeline, it starts to say, you're never going to keep up with that. So why are you going to go right now? Because you know that this is just starting the cycle. So then it starts to pull up that resistance to where you don't even want to go in the first place because it's already telling you that you're never going to keep up with it. So you self-sabotage in that way. So definitely confidence and procrastination can be linked, because if you don't believe that you can achieve what it is that you're trying to do, then your brain is telling you, what's the point? Why start? Why do this now?
Yes. And when you were talking, I thought immediately of self-sabotage. And I talk a lot about that in my coaching in particular. But I came across this YouTube video from Mel Robbins. And she said, that procrastination, like it's a habit to procrastinate, and
Mhm.
that you are not a procrastinator. You have a habit of procrastinating. And like she has this rule of like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Like you say that in your mind and then you go and do the thing and just tell yourself, let me just start for 5 minutes, because the getting started is the hardest part. And you would be surprised how that like works so good, because like clients can really, they can buy into, okay, let me just start this workout for 5 minutes. And I'm just like, hey, I want you to set a timer. Start
Mhm.
for 5 minutes. And if you stop at 5 minutes, great. You did 5 whole minutes. It's better than zero, right? Tomorrow, set it for 6 minutes. Let's just do some incremental things here, right? It doesn't have to be like all or nothing. And so the self sabotage definitely comes in because they're really identifying with their previous self, right? A former version of themselves, or maybe a self that had failed at one time. And so that imposter syndrome comes up where they're like, oh, but really I'm like this. But I always tell people, like, I think it's called future pacing, but it's like you thinking about your CEO, like
Mhm.
this, my CEO or my best and highest version of myself would do this, right? And then practice doing what she would do to
Mhm.
become that person. And so it's all about your mindset. Like that's, it's a whole like mind, not game, but game, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
So Tanel said, how do I build my confidence?
Yeah. So there's a longer version of that and a shorter version of that, because one thing that I want to preface is saying that sometimes we go into wanting to build our confidence thinking, give me the 3, 2, 1 of how I'm confident overnight tomorrow.
Right.
And while there are things that you can put in place that will help you get to that place, confidence is a long-term journey. And there are different areas in your life. Some areas you may be more confident in, and other areas you aren't. And in addition to that, just because you're in a moment and you don't feel like on top of the world doesn't mean your confidence isn't growing either, because you can show up and you can look in the mirror, do whatever, and think, you know what, I don't feel so great right now, but that doesn't mean that what you're doing isn't working. But to give you some practicals on that, some things that you can do. We talked about the self-awareness piece, and that leads us into self-trust. So self-trust is knowing that you trust yourself to do the things that you say you're going to do. So I want you to look at your life and see how many times in your life do you do the things that you say you're going to do. If you say, you know what, tomorrow's the day, I'm waking up at 6 a.m., do you wake up at 6 a.m.? Because those little things can help you start to believe that when you say you're going to do something, that you do it. And on top of that, learning how to have your own back. Because a lot of times, we know this when we're children. When we're children, if you fall down, scrape your knee, you know somebody's going to come there and say, oh, hey, honey, it's okay. We can pick it back up. And we think that we grow out of that. But our current, you never fully grow out of that, and your current self still needs that. So, like you were saying, your CEO self, the highest version of yourself, are you willing to, if you said that you were going to wake up at 7 a.m. and for whatever reason you didn't, maybe the alarm didn't go off, or whatever it was, and you didn't, do you know how to go back to yourself and say, hey, pick yourself up, we got this, that's okay. And we can keep going. When you can learn how to do what you're saying that you're going to do, starting small, you don't have to say that you're going to change the world by tomorrow, but you can build yourself up, starting with small things and getting to those bigger things. And simultaneously knowing when to have your own back during the good, bad, ugly, or indifferent, then over time, your confidence will start to grow. You'll start to believe in yourself, trust yourself, and know how to keep going no matter what.
Mm-hmm. And so, like you mentioned, it's not a 1, 2, 3 process. And that people also expect that in nutrition and fitness too. Like, okay, just tell me what to eat and tell me what exercises to do, right? It's like, well, what if you don't like the same things that I'm eating, right?
Yeah.
Or so what you mentioned about that it's a process, and kind of thinking about your CEO self and keeping commitments to yourself,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then starting small, and maybe if you're really struggling, writing down all the evidence for your brain, like all the times that you said you were going to do something and you actually followed through, so that your brain can't tell you, girl, no, you're not going to follow through because you didn't follow through on X, Y, and Z. But you're like, no, actually, I followed through on these things, right? So give your brain that evidence, even if it's the smallest thing, right? Because that confidence, you trusting yourself, it can start super small and then you can kind of build on that.
Yeah, absolutely. It can be things as simple as saying, you know what, today, whenever I wake up in the morning, I'm just going to take a few sips of my water. And just doing that can start to prove to yourself, hey, you did what you said you're going to do. It doesn't have to be this monumental task that you have to set out for yourself. You don't have to tell yourself, I'm going to go run a 4K or I'm going to save $3,000 by next week. Like, it doesn't have to be that big. It could be, hey, instead of spending $7 on my Starbucks tomorrow, I'm going to make it at home. And when you start doing that on a consistent basis, you're teaching yourself that you know how to do the things that you say you're going to do, and that you are worthy of being trusted, which you inherently are. But you have to teach your brain that sometimes. Sometimes it doesn't know, like you're saying, with the evidence, building that evidence up for yourself.
Mm-hmm. And you mentioned it being hard sometimes. And one thing that I thought of is like, how can you be okay with you working towards your confidence, but it not feeling great all the time? Like, it doesn't mean that you're going to feel great because you're confident. It means that you make a decision, and like you said, you have your own back and you continue to follow through. That doesn't mean it's going to feel good.
No.
Like, there's a total disconnect, because sometimes people are like, oh, well, I'm waiting to feel motivated to go work out. And I'm like, well, could you put your shoes on? Could you put your yoga pants on, right? Could you drive to the gym and still not feel motivated? Like, you could do all of that with no motivation. Like, we do it all the time. We go to work all the time and we don't want to be at work. But guess what? We show up at work. So you don't have to wait on the feeling in order for you to take action. And a lot of times your feelings will catch up, right? If you go and work out anyway, you're never like, oh, shouldn't have did that. Like, no one ever says that. They're like, oh, I'm proud of myself for going. I feel better. I have more energy. Like, your feelings are going to catch up once you start taking that action and becoming in alignment with your mind and your actions. And that feels good. That feels in flow. So I feel like a lot of times people know what to do or what they want, but it's just taking that 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and just going and go do it.
Yeah. So, and knowing that it's not a problem if you feel bad doing it. It's not a problem if it's not always enjoyable. And even that is going to help you build your confidence too, knowing that you can do things that don't always feel great. You can do things that don't always seem easy, and you can still make that commitment to yourself.
Right. And that's self-discipline. That's where you get that self-discipline and overcoming the resistance to doing what it is that you want to do. So another question from Camera was, how do you work to maintain confidence when the journey takes time? So should the confidence be result focused? And if it's not about the results, where can I gain confidence during the journey?
Yeah. So there are two pieces to confidence. So at its core, confidence, we know, comes with you believing that you could accomplish something. So if your goal is, hey, I want to go to the gym 5 times this week, and you do that all the time, of course you're confident that you can do that because you always do it. But like you're saying, what happens when you're only going once a week and you're still trying to be confident there? That's when you turn inward and it becomes that self-confidence. Not, do I see the results already and that's why I'm confident, but do I trust myself enough to be able to go there? And a lot of times what I direct people to do is figure out your reason why. So for example, for myself, when it comes to my own health and fitness journey, I realized that a lot of times whenever we're trying to work out, we're doing it because we want to look a certain way, love our bodies, things like that. And so for me, I would get home and I'd be doing my mirror work and looking in the mirror and be like, dang girl, you look good. Like all the stuff that we want to feel whenever we're working out and doing all that stuff. But what I noticed was it started to breed complacency in me because I felt good about myself. Why is it a big deal if I go work out if I already love the way I look, you know? So then I went back and go, okay, so what can be my next reason for doing this? And so I changed my reasons from going to the gym because I wanted to look a certain way or to feel a certain way, but I started going because I believed and trusted myself to know that I was worthy of being taken care of. So now my motivation is, hey, I'm worthy of taking care of myself. That's why I'm going to pay attention to how I feel my body and how I take care of my body because I'm worthy of it. So the confidence piece in that comes in. Do you believe yourself worthy of taking care of your health, taking care of your body and your vessel? And when you can start looking at your own self-worth and realizing that about yourself, the confidence piece will be boosted when you're on a longer term journey because it's not just about numbers, scales, foods, and things like that.
Mm-hmm. And what you just said kind of reminded me of just self-love and self-care and like having that connection with yourself. And what I find with people who have like struggled on and off with like losing weight and then gaining it back, it's so much like less about the actual food than it is about your connection with yourself. And so when you really try and reconnect with yourself, like think about like when you meet a guy or a girl, whatever, and you're like trying to get to know them. You're like, okay, well, what do you like? And so what do you do on the weekends? You know, and you like really curious. And so really like getting curious with yourself is a great place to start of like, okay, who am I? Because I feel like when we're born, we start immediately getting like layered with other people's expectations. With like, if you're loud, people say be quiet. If you're too quiet, people say, why don't you talk more? And so it's just like all the things. But I have 2 kids, and I knew immediately that my son, my second born, was going to be totally different from my first. We came in this world with downloaded stuff already, right? We already came with like a little personality of our own. And so it's like, okay, who was that? Like, what did I already come with? Like, how do I express my actual authentic self and how do I be more of me? And that's a whole journey. That'll take you several years.
Exactly.
That'll take you a while. That'll keep you real busy. And so instead of like trying to white knuckle these results of like, I'm waiting for the scale to tell me when I can be confident. Confidence is available to you now, right? Your goals, a lot of y'all have goals that are like, okay, I want to lose this many pounds or whatever. And I'm like, well, why? And you're like, okay, because I want to feel confident. And I'm like, well, why can't you feel confident now? Right?
And we think that our confidence has to be tied to a certain look, but if that were true, then every person who weighed a certain amount and fit in a certain size dress would be confident, you know? But that's not the case. You can have an amazing body or whatever it looks like and still be not confident. It's not tied to a certain image. And if you're chasing just the image to be confident, you're going to get there and you're still not going to be confident.
You're going to be so disappointed. I just had a call with a girl the other day who was just like, she's struggling, but then like she wants to lose weight. She said she used to be a size 4. And I was like, well, when you were a size 4, were you confident in loving your body? And she was like, no, but this time, you know, it'll be different. And it's like, no, ma'am, it's not going to be different. It's going to be the exact same because your brain is the exact same brain. And you're going to be thinking the exact same thoughts that you've always been thinking if you don't intentionally become aware of your thoughts, start picking and choosing the thoughts that you want to hold on to that are going to give you the results that you want.
Exactly. So, the example that we can all think of is if we try to look back to our high school self, and I'm sure our high school self all thought, oh man, wouldn't it be nice to lose a few here, lose a few there? And now when we go back and look at pictures, like, I looks like that. I didn't think I looked like that in my head, but I
Exactly.
did.
Exactly. And that's why tracking, for you ladies that know, is so important. And I try to always find multiple ways to find a win. So your progress photos, you need to be taking those progress photos every 4 weeks, ladies. Because when you're in the midst of changing, you might not see it, right? You might not necessarily even feel it. But if you can look back at your progress photos, you can do like a fit test every 4 weeks where you do a couple of exercises for a minute and see how many. Okay, I got 10 push-ups in this 1 minute, and then 4 weeks later, oh wow, I got 15 or I got 20. And so it's like when you see that progress too, I know that helps to motivate y'all when you're seeing progress. So find multiple ways to ingrain you finding a win along the journey so that you can just like keep picking up those crumbs. Like, oh, okay, I feel a little bit more confident here. Oh, I can do more push-ups, or I have, drop the dress size or whatever. But you have to be tracking that in order to actually see it. Because if you don't, you'll just be like, oh yeah, I don't know, ain't nothing been happening. So I guess I might as well stop because this isn't enjoyable, right? So y'all let me know if you have any questions. I don't think that we had any other questions in the group. Let me double check. No, y'all let me know if you have any questions. So can you let them know where they can find you?
Yeah, so my favorite place to hang out is on Instagram. It's my name, at Dalencia, so I'm always there. I'm also starting a podcast in the next month. So if you pay attention to my Instagram, I'll be announcing more about that soon. But if you're anything like me, I love a good something to listen to on my way to wherever it is I'm going, something that you can listen to in the background, stuff like that. So I'm excited about those two places. Instagram, podcast, you can meet me there, DM me if you have questions, if you want to know more, always putting stuff out. So yeah.
And I love that is such a great way. It's kind of how I start my clients too. Like as we start our journey, I'll give them stuff to listen to, right? And it's a passive way to like start changing the way you think just by listening, right? You don't have to do anything. You don't have to write anything down. Just start listening to Mindset Podcast. So what is the name of your podcast going to be? Or
it is going to, and I haven't said this before, so that's kind of funny.
Oh, okay. So it's well, you don't have to tell us if you don't want to.
I can't. Live your best busy life. So that's going to be the
I like that. Okay, so say it one more time so they can hear you.
Yeah, live your best bougie life. That's going to be the name of the podcast. And to your point about listening to stuff, it just reminds me of the idea that we are the culmination of the closest people that we hang around. So sometimes, especially in the midst of a pandemic and things like that, introverts, people who aren't around a lot of people all the time, or maybe you just don't have a lot of people around you who think like you want to think. When you're listening to stuff, those become the people that you start to think like whenever you're listening to those podcasts. So that can help rewire the way that you think, rewire your brain to get you on track and achieve your goals better.
That is such a good point, y'all. So look at the people around you. Okay, your closest people. If you go to your text message and see who you're texting, see who you're calling, are those people inspiring you? Mm-hmm. Are they where you want to be in life or in their mindset or in their journey? If you don't have people who are close to you that are on the same trajectory, you have to start really thinking about your circle, right? I think it's like there was this meme with Nipsey Hussle that said like, if you look around your circle and you don't get inspired, you don't have a circle, you have a cage, right? Mm. So it's different when you think about a cage. Like you don't want to be that, right? So you have got to surround yourself. It doesn't matter if it's virtually or not, because this world we live in now. So podcasts, great place to start. And so I would say, get on Dalencia's podcast and then, follow some people that she's following. Like you need to make sure you have at least several good like mindset podcasts so that you can see, okay, this is how high achievers think, right? This is how people who have self-discipline and who are business owners and who are, in the same energy, like it's just a different energy, right? And so you want to be in the energy of the people who are doing the work and going places. If you feel stuck, like don't ignore that, because that energy and that intuition where you feel like, man, there's something more. I feel restless. I'm not like fulfilled. Like that's a real vibration. And so like if you're listening, this is for you. Okay. Like I don't believe in coincidences. Get on the podcast, Live My Bougie Life. Say it one more time.
That's bougie life.
Live your best bougie life. Okay. I love that name, by the way.
Thank you. And
Yes.
just to add on to what you were just saying there, it also makes me think about a lot of times when we're going through these journeys, especially if we aren't already in a circle of people who are doing the things that we want to do, it can start to feel real lonely. You can start to feel like you're the only person who wants the things that you want in life. When you start putting yourself in those groups, following the right people, listening to the right podcast, it can let you know, hey, there's a whole sphere of people, much like people have in your community here, where you can feel like, oh, you know what, I'm not the only one person that has this goal. I'm not the only one person who has this struggle, who's trying to achieve this. And so it can shift that perspective for you.
Yes. And something that you mentioned earlier, I was going to say something about that. Dang it, I forgot what it was. But totally agree.
Yeah.
Get people in your circle that are like, that's going to up level you, right? Like that's going to raise your energy level. And so with that being said, if y'all don't have any other questions, I don't know if you want to give any last tips about confidence. Y'all let me know if you have questions in the meantime, but you can give a tip and then I'll give a tip.
Yeah. I just really want to drive home the self-awareness piece. A lot of people are into journaling and that type of things. And you can do that if that's what you want. You can do it journaling. I even tell some of my clients to pull out the like audio notes on their phones. And if they don't want to write stuff down, it's not their thing, like speak into the audio notes, but just really start to pay attention to what's going through your brain, to when you're in the midst of various situations. And if you don't want to do something, write that down. What happened during that day that led to that? Because then you can start looking for those patterns in your life. And you know, hey, if I wake up 10 minutes too late, it's going to set my whole day off. If you can start to pay attention to those things, it's from that place that you can start to shift your thoughts, shift your actions, shift the results that you see in your life. And if you're not the type of person that's being introspective, especially when it comes to your health and fitness, it's always going to feel like a little bit more of a struggle. And I really believe that mindset is the piece that's going to amplify the results that you're seeing in your life.
Mm-hmm. And don't you want to be the person, like, I know that y'all don't want to be the person who's like always dieting or always like trying hard to like create this result, right? So if you think about just living your life, like what if you had just an active lifestyle and you chose good healthy food most of the time, so it wasn't like you were restricting yourself, and it was just like your lifestyle, then you could actually like get on to other things, like building that business, writing that book, like taking care of your kids, like other things, right? Because I mean, our health, we have to do this every day. We have to eat, right? It's like, so we might as well get good at this, like picking, And so my tip would be just continue to reconnect with yourself. This journey is not about what you see on the scale. It's about being the person that can create that result. Mm-hmm. Right? It's about becoming the person that can create that result, which means that you can't skip the journey, because on the journey is where you get the tools and the mindset and the practice and figuring out like, okay, my energetic boundaries and my, my standards, my values, like through the journey, you figure all that out. So you can't skip the journey. I guarantee you, if you try, you will be right back at square one, because that's how life is until you like master the test, right? When you pass the test, then you can move on. So yeah, thank you so much for being here today. I really enjoyed our conversation and super excited about your podcast. Let me know when it is official.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. This was a blast.
I love it. Someone said, yes, I agree, because sometimes I feel like I'm in diet jail. I just want to live a normal life. Yes. And so continue to really, like I said earlier, get curious with you, because you are the one that's creating the results that you're getting. And if you don't like it, right, you got to look and see, okay, that self awareness, what's going on here?
Yeah.
You know?
And what's your
So,
identity? It's like,
who are you?
is your identity the person who is trying to lose weight and eat better, or is your identity someone who is healthy and also has the rest of this full life on the outside of just what you eat and when you work out?
Yeah, there's so much more to life. Like, this is a huge part of it. Now, don't get me wrong, it's super important, but it doesn't have to consume everything that you do. Like every time you eat. Or I had a client the other day text me, and she was like, I'm having an issue, coach. And I'm like, what? I was thinking like she's gonna quit the program or something. She was like, oh, I got a promotion at work and they're having cake for me and I don't know what to do. And I'm like, why is this a problem? Like, why is this a problem? Like, it doesn't have to be a problem, right? And it's
Yeah.
because she didn't have the confidence in herself to trust herself that after the cake, she could just go back to
Right.
her thing, right? It's just
Eat
like,
cake and still live healthy on after that.
yeah, y'all would be surprised. I don't always eat the greatest, okay? So y'all would be surprised. Y'all would be surprised. Definitely have to work on trusting myself. Yes, definitely. And I always find that like self-trust, self-love, self-acceptance, self-worth, like all of those things, when I talk to people and they tell me that their goal is to look good in a bathing suit, and I get down to like the why, it usually comes down to one of those things, or like a core like principle of life
Right.
that you really don't even realize. And sometimes we make those goals and I'm like, okay, what do you think that goal is going to make you feel? That is what you're after. You're not after the goal itself. You're after how you think that goal is going to make you feel. Right. And then how can we access that a little bit more?
Yeah,
So,
100%. You're spot on.
all right. Well, thank you so much. If y'all want to get in contact, can you leave your Instagram on the comments afterwards, or I can put it in there, or we'll figure it out. We'll put it. We'll figure it out. I don't know if you can.
Connected.
Okay. Cool. Thank you so much. Y'all have a great night. Thank you for watching. And next Wednesday, y'all, I will be back on with another topic. So just stay tuned. Thanks for watching. Bye, y'all.